The Attorney General of Utah, and obviously you follow national issues. I want to talk about two Supreme Court cases that are coming any day now. First on same-sex marriage. That's been fought out in your state and lots of other states. How do you handicap what the court is facing and what you think they'll decide?
Obergefell. It's a difficult decision for the court. Most people believe that Justice Kennedy is the swing vote on that. He gave us a decision in Windsor that seemed to sort of reflect that inner conflict that he had. Will he hew back to his more federalist roots and allow the states to decide this issue as they have traditionally? Or will he, as a lot of his language indicated, vote to universally recognize same-sex marriage, not just at a federal level, but through all the states? You know, all the prognosticators seem to, the experts seem to think that the likelihood is a 5-4 decision one way or the other. So I don't know.
If we end up with if Justice Kennedy goes the way that some prognosticators think, and we end up with national right to same-sex marriage, do you have any doubt in your mind that every state in the union must then follow what the Supreme Court says? There are some people who suggest that there are ways in which the states could fight back against that, beyond the question of a constitutional amendment.
And we've addressed this in our state, and we're ready, whatever the decision is, to implement the law that the Supreme Court pronounces. However, I will say this, too, regardless of how it turns out, and particularly if they rule against the states and against the Sixth Circuit, I think the next question will be then how do you balance the religious freedoms? There have been, our own state has addressed that through legislation to try to strike that balance in anticipation of a SCOTUS decision perhaps going against the states.
The other big decision everybody's waiting for is on the Affordable Care Act, the question of state subsidies for people in federal exchanges. Your state doesn't have a state exchange, so it would affect a lot of people in Utah if it's struck down. How do you handicap the court's decision there, and what are the implications, you think, if they strike down the subsidies?
Once again, and I don't want to sound just like a lawyer, but these are very nuanced decisions. I think the plain text of the act makes it very difficult for the courts to ignore that they excluded coverage for federal-funded exchanges. However, I have a sense that perhaps at the end of the day, the court may find that there is some ambiguity, and in that ambiguity they can interpret that if they were intended to cover state exchanges, they were also intended to cover federal exchanges.
This is an oversimplification of the case, but if you've got on one side the simple language, and the other side you've got what appeared to be the legislative intent, and you've got the interpretation by the agency, the IRS, in question, does that trump the simple language or not necessarily?
You know, by interpretation, statutory interpretation, it really shouldn't. It should be the plain language that is always the first thing that you go to. But as you posit it, Mark, when you factor in the intent or the purported intent along with sort of the interpretation at the agency level, again, that's why it's making it hard for everyone to determine which way it goes. I believe also 5-4.
Right. Let me ask you a question about John Roberts, obviously instrumental in the first Obamacare case, upset a lot of conservatives who had hopes that he would be a true blue or true red conservative. Do you think, what's your view of how Chief Justice Roberts has comported himself in that hallowed position?
You know, we always hope that whomever's on the bench will put aside their own personal feelings or perhaps even partisan leanings to do what they believe is right under the law. I don't really want to come here to second-guess Chief Justice Roberts on any particular decision, but that is the hope. Can they do it? Are they insulated truly from politics and popular feelings?
Let me put it this way: do you think has his jurisprudence been in line with what you expected, or not?
No, I think he surprised some people. Clearly, I believe those on the conservative side felt like that was a vote that should have been a Roberts vote, and he went the other way. And I think many of them are hoping that in this case he, I don't want to use the term glibly, pays them back, that he returns back to where they think he ought to be. But again, he's proven that he's his own man, and that he'll make decisions that he believes are in the best interest and interpreted true to the Constitution.
Biggest difference, quick answer, between Utah and New York City?
Biggest difference between Utah and New York City, we have mountains that are gigantic and beautiful scenery, and we passed a...
We got three-card Monty.
you do. We may have some of that, too.
Trying to say New Jersey's not beautiful?
Well, no, what I'd like to say is Utah has a new white-collar fraud registry that no state has, so that way I know I'm on safe ground.
All right,
this is interesting stuff.
John Reyes, Attorney General of the great state of Utah.